Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. Today, my topic is why you need to launch fast. And I want to discuss the reason why, if you're trying to start a business, it's important to launch fast. A lot of us spend time, hours, years, months planning. And while planning is important, the most important thing you can do for yourself when it comes to starting a business is launching fast. And I wanted to cover this topic today because I just read an article in the New York Times about the Apple Watch. And you all know Apple is coming up with a smartwatch and everybody's excited about it. And I read this article and it was not, a super glowing review. But I also realized that that's actually Apple's plan. And let me explain why. So, the title of the New York Times article was Bliss, but only after a steep learning curve. So basically they're saying that yes, the watch is nice, but there's a learning curve to get used to it. And for me, that was an opportunity. Apple gets an opportunity to fix the learning curve later. But it didn't say that the watch was terrible. So here, it's part of how Apple does things. And if you track how they've released products over the years, it follows a methodology where they will go to market with a minimum, what they call, in startup world, minimum viable product. And what that means is that they will go to market with, a product that has the minimum features, that will create a viable product to the market. Will get people excited enough to want to buy it. And then they will work to fix all the other things that they know need to be fixed later. And I'm telling you that is the strategy that as a startup you need to adopt. You need to, whatever product you're creating or whatever service you're creating, come up with the minimum features that you think will create a viable product that will add value to the customer's life and go to market with that. Because there are several reasons why you want to do that. The first is that you don't know everything that the customer wants. So you don't want to sit there and try to create the perfect product. Go with the minimum viable product and then learn from the customer feedback. Number two, also, when you launch quickly, you give yourself some time to get experience in the marketplace and get your first mover advantage if you're the first to do this while you work on all the other things that you know that the customer is going to want later. But to wait on a perfect product means that you are waiting for failure, because what happens is that you would have missed opportunity. You'd have missed the right moment to go to market. And there is a saying that if you're not embarrassed by your first product, the first version of your product or your service, you started too late. And a lot of you are sitting there waiting, to get the perfect product, the perfect, service before you go to market. You're actually setting yourself up for failure. And so another thing about the New York Times review, in the conclusion, it said, the first Apple Watch may not be for you, but someday soon it will change your life. And that conclusion right there was a conclusion of promise. So it shows that this is a nice product. It may not be for everyone right now, but someday it's going to change your life. And as you can see again, that's where Apple is going. They want to show people the promise of what is coming. There may be things that the watch cannot do. You may have a steep learning curve, but Apple is planting its flag there that, look, we are the leader in this space and we're going to continue to lead. So all the things that the New York Times writer probably identified are things that Apple has probably identified themselves. And they're probably working on it right now. Or there may be things that they haven't identified. When you're trying to create a product and there's a bunch of engineers that are using things, no matter how good or customer friendly they think it is, until your product collides with the customer, you don't know what the customer is going to do with it. So part of this process is that Apple is going to learn what the customer does with the product, and then they're going to tweak it and then release the next version. And I say that this is a strategy because if you go back to the iPhone, look at when the iPhone came out. By that time, BlackBerry was king. And people have tried to do, a touchscreen phone before and failed. And Apple came in and figured out a way to do it and they went to market with a product that was viable, will get people excited. But if you really remember, today we take a lot of things for granted, but there were a lot of features that the iPhone can do now that it could not do back then. For example, you could not multitask. I remember you could be taking a phone call and you want to check your email to maybe get some information to tell the person on the phone, and you could not do that because once you switch to another application, the phone hangs up. But Apple went to market with it knowing that multitasking on the phone is going to be a feature that's going to come later. You know, another feature was that the camera wasn't really good. I mean, it was okay, so nobody was, taking great pictures with the camera. But look how far the camera has come. The megapixels has improved, the quality of the shots, things you can do with the camera. I mean, now people don't carry, their standalone cameras anymore because the phone cameras are good enough. And that all started with the iPhone, when cameras really became a thing with the phone. So here again, Apple went to market. They were the first to do the touchscreen phone the way it's been done today, and they wanted to take advantage of that first mover advantage. They went to market with something that will get people excited enough for them to buy while they work on everything else. That's how you need to approach your startup. Go to market with your minimum viable product that has the features that will get people excited enough to see the promise of what you're trying to do, and then work as fast as you can to get those other features and release in the later versions, including the experience that you've gained by customer interactions. So the lesson here, or the experience I want to share here, is that you should look at Apple as a model of how you release your product or your service. First, you should get it out quickly. Second, you should then get feedback from your customers very quickly so that you can tweak the product and release a new version. And if you watch very carefully, Apple always did that with the version S of their product. So they'll release iPhone 3, and then 3S is more of an improvement, tweaking the edges, bringing new features, but it wasn't a revolutionary redesign. And then they'll bring a 4 and then a 4S, and those S's were all used to introduce new features, but mostly to also clean up some of the things that they realized didn't work well with the main flagship release. So that's what you want to do. And in business, if you don't take advantage of opportunity, if you want to just stay and overthink your business idea, by the time you get around to it, it may be too late. Because remember, if you are thinking about an idea, there are a million other people thinking about the same idea. And I know it's hard for some of you to believe, because I talk to a lot of people and they say, oh, if I go to market, somebody will steal my idea. No, there is barely anything new under the sun. Most of the products that come out are an improvement on an existing idea. I mean, think about it. Very few instances do we get a product that comes in, everybody's like, wow, we never thought of this. Most of the time, there's a version of it somewhere, but it hasn't been perfected, or somebody hasn't taken it to that direction that this person is taking it. And so do not be afraid to launch. Of course, if you have a product that requires protection in terms of trademark or patent or all that, do that. File your provisional patent, file your trademark, protect your idea, but go to market. Don't sit down trying to, being afraid of the marketplace. And there are some of you who are hiding behind preparation. So what you do is, I call you guys the bench warmers. You never ask the coach to put you in the game because you're always preparing. You're probably writing a business plan that you've been working on for a year now. Some of you attend every entrepreneurial seminar you could find. You read every entrepreneurial book you could find. You follow all the entrepreneurs on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. You listen to every podcast, including this podcast, which, by the way, is good. But at the end of the day, you have to go out there and do it. At the end of the day, you have to go out there and do it. And the learning is in the doing. So no amount of preparation is going to get you ready to be an entrepreneur. And I tell you that. Not business school, not learning from somebody. It's you actually going out there and doing it. That is when your biggest learning is going to come from. So while you're sitting down overthinking your idea, somebody's out there doing it. And I know some of you will sit there and say, whoa, that was my idea. Well, the difference between entrepreneurs and bench warmers are that entrepreneurs actually go out there and do it. So I'm encouraging you to use Apple as your model. Look at what they're doing with the Apple Watch. And very soon, I guarantee you, within 3 or 4 years, the watch will take over. But Apple wants to be the first, and they want to be the best. And the best way to do that is to launch first. And if you do that, you will give yourself a good head start. So that's the podcast for today. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to the next podcast and seeing you there.